to get into the music conversation, but just a quick sidebar here, right?
Right.
Because we lived through this era here. Like when I was in eighth grade, when I was in eighth grade, 50 Cent's second album came out, The Massacre.
Oh yeah.
When I was in eighth grade, and I just remember that it was such a big deal that he went platinum in 1 week. He sold 1 point whatever million copies of that second album that he put out in 7 days.
Shit, nuts.
Like
now going gold is like, oh my god, I went gold.
Right, like so again, like had me and my brother known then that when he went to the store, because my brother is 5 years older than me, but like when he went to the store and bought that physical copy of The Massacre, the first week that it came out, like imagine, let's say 20, 30 years from today, because it's already almost been about 15 years since that album came out in 2005. But fast forward 20, 30 years from then, imagine having one of the first million copies of that physical album that came out. You never took it out of the package.
In hindsight, we can say these things and be like, why didn't I just leave it in the package? Or I mean, toy collectors do that. Some video gamers do that. But I mean, you're right. In 20, 30 years, if you got The Massacre, or hell, Get Rich or Die Trying, with the Sam Goody packaging on it. How much that's just gonna go for on eBay, man?
You see what I'm saying? Like that's the kind of shit that I'm talking about right here. Like
man.
So like, okay. And this is another question that's kind of similar. I don't even know how we got on this topic, but I'm glad that we're having this conversation. Like, what do you think it takes for a piece of media to actually be recognized as more than entertainment, as a piece of art, as opposed to a piece of entertainment? Because, like you said, you have a copy of the Black Panther on Blu-ray, right?
Right.
But, like, if the Black Panther was just a movie, like, I appreciate the Black Panther. I enjoyed that movie thoroughly. Like, I'll never forget going to the theater and actually watching that and consuming that experience of sitting in a movie theater, seeing that for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, does it have to be above quality in order for it to be consumed as a piece of art? Because you mentioned before in that the 90s image comic speculator bubble, all of that almost sunk the entire business because there was false value being placed upon things that didn't meet that standard of quality, right?
Right.
So what does it take for something to be actually recognized as art, to where you can place an aesthetic value on it as opposed to just forcing that value upon it? I hope that question makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So what I'm gathering from you is basically, one does something, because all films in general is basically art. Currently, as it's standing, it's all art. The cover art is art. The film itself is art. All of it's subjectively art to a certain degree, depending on the individual. And they say art is anything that stimulates the mind and causes an emotion out of you anyway. With that being said, when does it become art where it becomes of actual physical value, where it becomes valuable on like the market or store? I think it becomes valuable again when it becomes rare, when it becomes hard to find, when it becomes like what you said, that Massacre CD, someone probably has it in their attic, in the garage. Shit's all scratched up. Booklet's probably gone. The case got some cracks in it. You know? But 2060 rolls around and the age of CDs and all this shit's long gone and it's all digital. That cracked CD of The Massacre is a time capsule to an era long gone. So just like how we would view if we were to get a, just like if we were to get a Smokey, and I'm not comparing the quality of the music or whatever, but like a
Oh
Smokey
yeah.
Robinson vinyl record, that Massacre CD could be held in that same regard as a current day Smokey Robinson vinyl or a Little Richard vinyl or one of those Motown classics, one of those first prints that came out before they hit radio waves.
Man, you
Those
talking
kind
some
of
shit right now. You talking some
those
shit right now.
yeah, man, that kind of value will then be transferred over to currently what we think is junk will become ultimately valuable in the future.
Like,
And
bro,
yeah,
oh my God. Like,
yeah,
it's random. And this is another random thought, but I remember when Jadakiss put out a diss track called Checkmate against 50 Cent. He said, most likely your new album is a weed play, bunch of love songs, 100% pure garbage, just something to break up buds on. But that album, and I mean, them was bars right there. Them was bars
yeah,
right there.
man.
Them was some heavy bars. But yeah, like you said though, I mean, it's just crazy to think that in our time, that was something that somewhere somebody actually rolled up weed on the 50 Cent album, The Massacre, right?
Right.
But again, a time might come to where the first million copies of that album that got sold might actually have actual value applied to it. You know what I mean?
And they got
Like,
easy ways to track those shits from the labels, the UPC, the date. They got so many ways to make sure that this is authentic. This was actually when the first million copies sold. By
oh
the
my
way, they
God.
release these things. So in hindsight, yeah, it's easy. I mean, we could say now that, oh man, I should have saved that shit or should have done that shit. Well, you can currently right now. You can, whatever CDs you got, tape them up,
Right.
protect them shits.
Like,
Let your grandkids get them. Leave it in your will, and then when they open that shit up, they be like, damn, we got some art. Just like
right.
shit from your great grandma or your great auntie, whatever, they left you some shit. You're like, damn, I got this thing, and this shit, like, you can't find this anymore.
Like, oh my
Yeah,
God, bro. I'm so glad we're having this conversation because it really makes me wonder, like, why does the same value get applied to vinyl but not cassette tapes?
right. And I think it's just kind of maybe it's just where trends are going towards. I think there's that kind of like sophistication that comes with the vinyl record, and again, the way the
Mm,
vinyl record plays, it seems
mm,
more sophisticated. It seems more savvy. It seems more it's a status symbol
I
rather
got
than
you.
just yeah, it's a status symbol rather than just like I'm playing a cassette tape. But
Right.
things change. One day a cassette tape could be considered savvy, could be considered. It's only a matter of time where it's like, damn, that 94, 93 Naughty by Nature tape complete.
Oh man.
And the cassette is still white. It's not that beige yellow, there's no dirt or
Oh
grime
my
on it.
God.
And
Like,
you're like, oh
bro,
shit, I got jackpot right here, man. This shit's worth 500 now.
dog, like it's just again, like, cause you know what I'm saying? Again, like having been with me and you having grown up through the 90s and also being black during that time, like we got family members that lived through the era prior to us.
Mm-hmm.
So like my uncle Mark had an immaculate tape collection, man. And he
Mm.
still has it. Like
Oh
it
shit.
it wasn't just something that like his tape collection, man. Like he had the Tupac Me Against the World album, both tapes.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Like,
man.
but again, so to somebody like my niece or my nephew, the idea that you put a tape in and you got to listen through the entire tape to hear one song that you might like. So think about it. You would have to fast forward through an entire tape of songs on this one Tupac album
Mm-hmm.
in order to hear that one song that you wanted to hear. And then if you wanted to hear it again, you have to rewind it all the way back. However, little did anyone know or would they know that having to do that would damage the tape? Rewinding the tape actually damages it.
Mm-hmm. Damn, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, rewinding a tape actually damages the quality of it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
When your tape pops and the actual recording track comes off of the two tracks there, it's a wrap. Like,
Mm.
think about it, bro. These audio recording tapes had an A side and a B side. So when that tape pops out of the tape deck, you got to flip that bitch over to listen to the other side of the album.
Right.
Like,
Damn.
but again, so the only like it's just crazy. I'm glad that we even got into this because I never thought of it that way. Like nobody views tapes and CDs as being a piece of art the same way as vinyl. Like kind of
Mm-hmm.
similar to like comic books, right?
Right.
So like I traveled recently. I'm looking at it right now. I have X-Men Days of Future Past, and I have X-Men, the Dark Phoenix Saga. I have the entire comic book series blended into one singular comic book, right?
Nice. Chris Claremont classics, man.
However, I'm sure that this singular copy of Days of Future Past that I have that encompasses every issue is not recognized the same way as if I had the individual issues of that entire run.
Correct.
Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Because of limited availability, how many how many copies were printed at the time, and et cetera, et cetera. So novels are great as a way of, hey, I want to catch up on reading on everything without the ads, and it's it's recolored, it's reprinted, it's printed on a better paper quality, so you get the story, you can consume the story in a nice, concise way. But the individual issues is where the real kind of, whether you get the history to it, you get the art, you get the real collectability to it, where like this is a genuine thing that was printed in limited availability back in the 80s, and now I
Man,
have it in form, and this is the original one. Your graphic novel of the Dark Phoenix saga will never be as valuable as that first issue with Jean coming out the Hudson River and them barely hanging on, swimming in damn water. Like, it'll never be the
right,
same value. Never.
right. Because, okay, so I'm
You got a
flipping through the
piece of
pages.
history. Yeah.
I'm flipping through the pages right now, right?
Uh-huh.
So the first issue within this saga was Uncanny, the Uncanny X-Men, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was a part of that series where the Dark Phoenix saga actually began. So I promise you, it would be very difficult for me to find the. This was issue 129 of the Uncanny X-Men. Like, how hard would it be for me to find the individual copy of issue 129 for 40 cents from 1979?
129.
Yep.
Okay.
1979 was when that
Oh,
first issue
oh my
of
God, bro.
to whatever it was that started the Dark Phoenix saga began.
Woo. All right, so shit, man. Well, you're looking at 129. The value of that bad boy is jeez, at least about 100. About no, it goes up to 1,000 if it's high value. The cheapest you can probably run that shit, if it's the most horrible condition you can find, is $18.
Like, and I mean, okay, so like, bro, again, I'm not even sure what to title this particular conversation that we're having, but it's just crazy to think about that. Like, the same way, okay, so the same way that somebody would consider like a Basquiat painting, you know what I'm saying, that they
Mm-hmm.
would buy for $250,000. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope I'm not reaching too far to say something what I'm about to say here, but like, okay, so Nike re-releases a pair of retro Jordans every year to every 2 years or whatever, right? And
Right.
people will wait in line for upwards of 5 hours to get a
Mm-hmm.
hold of this pair of Jordans the day that they come out. They'll buy them for $300, put them in their closet, and never wear them a day in their life, right?
Right.
Okay, so are we at the point where we're actually going to consider this pair of Jordans that's being re-released as a piece of artwork?
Not the re-release. I
Not the
mean,
re-release.
not the re-release. I would maybe eventually, but that first original pair is gonna have the spike in price, and then eventually the re-release, depending on how many times they re-release it, will come after that. But
Right.
not the re-release. You want the OG. The OG is always gonna be held in high regard and value. The original piece. The re-release is dope. It makes it accessible for people to get a piece of that, but the value is nowhere. It's not even going to be the same, man. I mean, you buy Amazing Fantasy 15 featuring the first appearance of Spider-Man. The original one was, like, I think, limited to, like, I don't know, XYZ amount of copies. You buy the re-release, the reprint, that shit's worth pennies. You know what I'm saying? It's the same. It's the same thing. It's like, well, they reprinted it. It's the same thing, but it's not the same genuine article that you're looking for.
So with that being said, as we move on into the future, right? Like, okay, we just talked about this here. I consider going to see the Black Panther in the theaters as consuming a work of art. I'm not sure if other people feel that way. Like, I've talked to my mom about it, and she wasn't that big a fan of the Black Panther as a movie overall. She didn't even getting away from, like, Marvel and those type of properties, right?
Right.
Like the movie Get Out. I feel like the movie Get Out, when I went to see that, that was me consuming a work of art because it was nothing like anything I'd ever seen before, right?
Right.
However, in order to go see that, I only paid overall, between paying for the tickets and popcorn and drinks and everything like that, I spent maybe about $35, $40, right? Do you feel as though that is the proper amount for a consumer to pay to consume a piece of art like a movie like Get Out?
I think it's subjective, and it's up to the consumer how much they want to pay for something like that. Some people find value in different things. Some people would pay $50 to see the newest Fate of the Furious movie. Some people wouldn't. It's just all depends. Some people want to go to Disney World in Orlando, Florida right now and risk death because that's how much they value that experience, and that, that's how much value it has in their life. Some people would not even go to the local movie theater right now because it's just not worth it to them. It's all subjective, and it all just depends on the individual. And ultimately, value, someone had to decide that Basquiat was worth that amount. Someone had to. It was never like all these pieces of art, all these pieces of history weren't originally concepted with the fact that this will be worth millions of dollars. When the Mona Lisa was first made, Leonardo da Vinci was hot shit even back then. But he never knew that his shit was gonna be worth millions and millions and millions of dollars later on. Priceless. He didn't know that you get the original Mona Lisa, you see how many people coming after your head. You know what I mean? Like, so someone had to decide, like, hey, Leonardo da Vinci, he's really good. Oh, his shit's really cool. Oh man, I really like his art. Like, it had to be a collective group of people to determine that value. And it's also, if, let's just say, President Trump decided that 50 Cents the Massacre was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And guess what? The price of 50 Cents the Massacre is going to go up. Like, it's all subjective. One person of a certain status says something about something, everyone can go after it. And then if a mass amount of people think that something is dope, everyone else is like, why do they think it's cool? Well, let me check it out. Let me view what are their viewpoints on why is it so important to them. So I think it's subjective, really.
Well, see, I agree with that. I agree with you on that. But the difference is okay, like, and I'm glad that I used the 50 Cent Massacre album as an example because that's something that I actually lived through. Like, even with, okay, even with us living through the anticipation for the Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, we lived through that. So we know what it's like to experience the buzz that was around it and then experiencing going to the theater and enjoying it for what it was, right?
Right.
Like, the difference is, I feel like value can't necessarily be placed on something without approval from the consumers.
Mm.
If the Massacre album didn't sell 1 million copies in 7 days, one person coming out and saying this is a work of art wouldn't really be enough for the value on that to go up. You see what I'm saying? Because the consumer opinion on that wouldn't necessarily reflect one person's opinion on that to validate it going up.